All right, Andy Atherton, we're here to talk about part one of NXT Stand and Deliver, Saturday, April 19th in Las Vegas, Nevada. We are going to go over the women's title match between these four individuals and the men's title match from these three individuals. Andy, what's going on, man?
Hey, Ryan. Great to be here with you. Love NXT, as you know. Um, I'm excited for this show. It's funny is when we talk about Stand and Deliver, because it goes on so early on Saturday. Sometimes
Especially
it
this year.
yeah, for those going live in Vegas, it's 10 a.m. for us. Poor folks here on the East Coast will be watching at 1 o'clock on Peacock. But they tend to set the bar pretty high for the rest of the weekend. So I think this show on paper has that potential. Now, the two matches we're going to talk about are the only confirmed, all the participants. We still have some stuff up in the air for the mid card titles and some other, kind of matches that we may fill out the card with. But I'm excited. I think they've built both these up pretty well. We've gotten some surprises, especially with the women's match that we weren't expecting going in. If you had asked me, and I said this to Logan on our show, Who's Next, I thought going all along, main event, not the main event, but the women's title match at Stand Deliver was going to be Julia and Stephanie. Now,
As I think it kind of should be,
yeah,
honestly.
and
But
and we got there. I think they had to pivot a little bit and do some creativeness with this match because, with Julia, I was there at Roadblock at the theater at MSG. Great place to see a show. I had not
looked it.
been.
Yeah.
I had not been in that theater. Our good friend J.R. Stearns D'Amato was also there. We weren't sitting next to each other, but we were in the same section, so it was a good time. That's a great place to see a smaller brand because it's a theater setting, so it was like we're all on one side. It kind of felt like a bigger version of the Performance Center to me.
Interesting. So I went to Lowell. It was just a regular double taping at the end of 2024 in December, like the Christmas Chaos match and stuff like that, where Javon and Ethan Page kicked off their angle. And the setting was the same setting, about 300, 400 people, and it was pretty fucking cool to be there.
Yeah, it was intimate. It was different. I hadn't been in that theater probably close to 20 years because the last time I went, my daughter, who was almost 23, I took her to see a Doodle Bop show there. So it's been a long time since I've been in there. But it was cool though. Like I like those experiences you get in different arenas or different venues. Growing up going to Westchester County Center, that was a different experience as going to MSG, as going to Nassau, as going to the Meadowlands. So this theater was great. It was a hot show. They shot some LFG stuff beforehand. So a little vested interest in that personally, if you know anything about me. And I thought it was great. We got to see a lot of stars, got to see the Hardys take on Fraxium and got to see, it was tremendous. And got to see, the title match that, a lot of people thought it was hot shotted, which I think it kind of was because whatever Julia's injury was, I'm hearing it was maybe an ankle injury.
Yeah.
They didn't know how long she was going to be out. Coupled that with the other thing we're hearing is she had some visa issues that had to get cleared up. So they didn't know how long she would be unavailable for. So that's kind of why I think the belt came off. I mean, I thought it was a really great match.
It's a safe thing, right? And historically for Vaquer, it's awesome.
Yeah. Vaquer, she was going to get the belt at some point or not. Maybe they moved it up a little bit, whether or not if it was her and Julia one-on-one at Stand and Deliver, what would the outcome be? But going into this, so when Julia came out this past Tuesday, I was not shocked because she had been at house shows. She had appeared at a couple of house shows. What kind of shocked me, though, was the apparent heel turn that she made, which I kind of dig. The thing about NXT,
she needs it.
I think what they're doing, and maybe not so much with the seasoned people that come in, but they want to see everybody on each side of the fence. They want
Roxanne as example.
Yeah, Roxanne, baby face through and through, but very surprised. Not surprised, but I was very, happy how she took to being a heel. Braun is the Braun Breaker.
Yep.
Natural baby face. He, but he was okay as a heel. I don't love him as a heel. I think his strength lies on the baby face side.
Mellow too. So guys that they perceive to have big futures, let's see them work out both sides of the fence.
Yeah, they're doing that with Fallon Henley. They're doing that. They've done it with Gigi. They've done with a lot of people just to see how they do. Maybe they they resonate better with one side. So seeing Julia as a heel will be very, very interesting. So she kind of the last addition to the match. We have Jordynne Grace, who came in with all this fanfare. She's probably one of the greatest TNA women's champions of all time.
Yep.
And then we have Jada Parker, who is really on the up. She was in the Rumble. She has kind of so there's all these different classes, generations at NXT. You have the original 2.0 people. Some have moved up to our main roster. Some are still there, like your Fallon or your JC and all of them. Jada was kind of that next class with Kiana and a few other people and Saul. Now she's kind of moved up a little bit. I think she is over with the crowd. The Miss Parker chants. She's kind of blurring the lines a little bit because she is a heel, but she's got some babyface tendencies in there. So I thought her and Jordynne Grace, they've been kicking the crap out of each other. And then Stephanie, they made her look even stronger by defending both belts in the same night. She ends up dropping the North American title because, they need to get other women involved in the title picture there. So now you add Julia to the mix. And I don't know. My gut is telling me Julia's going to walk out with the belt with the character change. Stephanie may chase. I think what could happen is maybe they get a rematch, and I think Julia retains. And then down the line at maybe the SummerSlam weekend NXT show, we get Julia and Jordynne Grace. And maybe that's when Jordan, maybe takes the belt and Stephanie comes back into the picture. I think Jada will be there for a while. She may be around the picture for a bit. She's still young, but she has progressed really well. But, Julia also, I don't think Julia is long for NXT.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if one of these girls were going to come up, perhaps it would be Julia or Vaquer, honestly, just because Grace just got there and Parker isn't ready. So I was curious which one you kind of figured which would go kind of quicker sooner than later, right?
I think Julia is on the main roster by the Rumble. I think.
Because sooner, man. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Maybe even sooner. I mean, she has that connection. Good friends with Kairi Sane and Asuka and all of them. Maybe they have a new damage control kind of faction.
Yeah.
Maybe we could see Kairi show up. I don't know how close Asuka is to returning, but Kairi, I think, is all but cleared. Maybe she shows up and
June for Asuka.
Yeah, maybe she shows up and helps Julia with the win. I think the thing is here, I think Jordynne and Jada will cancel each other out for the most part.
Yeah.
I think they could move the action away, and then we just get kind of, how multi-man, multi-women matches are. Sometimes people end up on the floor, selling an injury for a while to allow two other people to highlight that part of the match. So I think that's what could happen. I think Julia gets the win back, gets the title back, and then moves on maybe to defend against each one of these ladies down the line.
Yeah, there seems to be a personal feud between Grace and Parker going on within this match. That's why I kind of thought when Julia came in and turned heel and had the parking lot promo that we were going to perhaps get Parker and Grace in the North American ladder, and we'd have like a highlighted singles match between the two girls, Julia and Vaquer, because that's the money match, really. I understand Grace should be in the mix and probably was maybe, I want to say, let's come to NXT and you'll have the Stand and Deliver main event or quasi main event, right? So, and then Miss Parker is their homegrown talent that makes sense to be in this spot.
Yeah.
All right, you think, I'm kind of with you. I think Julia may win too, but if they go Parker, I would be like, wow, Triple H is going to kind of purge this match right here and have those three other girls kind of head up to the main roster. And Miss Parker was fucking made in one night, really.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. That would probably be the most shocking outcome.
It would,
in other words, for me, it's Julia is my favorite. Stephanie, very slight behind, then Jordynne, then Jada. So I think it would be an upset, but I think it would elevate her. It would push her. They've shown a lot of faith in her. Again, she was in the Rumble. So that's a sign of people like that. They're kind of high on. They want to see their potential. They want to see how that main roster crowd. They want to see how they react in that big stadium setting. And I think she performed well in the Rumble. She had a nice pop and she had a nice run in there.
All of these girls were in the Rumble. So
yeah, that's right. You are correct. Yeah, they all were in the Rumble. But I think you kind of knew 3 of them were going to be in the Rumble kind of thing. Because the women's Rumble doesn't have they need more people. We can't have Kelly every damn year in the Rumble kind of thing.
No doubt. All right, so you suspect this to open the show?
Yeah, I think so, because I think the other match we're about to talk about, I think that's going to be wild. And I think to clean up after that match, to set up for another match, might be a Herculean task. So I just think that we get a hot start. We get these women out there. They're going to kick ass. And then we move on with the show from there.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. I think this could be a top 5 match on WrestleMania weekend. This match right here has the potential to be.
This could main. I would not be upset. I would not be shocked.
Besides the Trick match.
But what I think is going to happen in that triple threat match, I think it's going to be it's going to go all over the place. So I just think for a logistics sake, I think that's where they're going to go.
Well, as we're here, Obafemi versus Trick Williams versus Javon Evans for the NXT Championship. There's a lot of cool factors in this match, but you mentioned being at Roadblock at MSG Theater. What was the reception to the dark? What is it? The dark state?
Yeah, it took me a while to keep remembering the name.
To the dark state, and has their perception gotten a little stronger on TV since then?
It definitely has, because these were guys we didn't know much of them. We knew Dion Lennox. He was playing kind of like a cerebral, like a smart guy with the glasses kind of thing. Let's put glasses on the guy who makes you smart, kind of thing. Cutler James has been on LFG, so there's a little bit of a gray area there with him. The other 2 guys we may have seen before on like Level Up, or I don't know if they were on Evolve at all. But where I was sitting, Dion Lennox was standing right before they made their attack on them. And I thought, we got Temu Shield chants going in the arena. It's like anything. It takes time. At first you're like, who are these guys? It's like, are they going to be the new Shield? Or are they going to be the new Retribution? And we hope that it's the former of those 2 comparisons. Right now, they're somewhere in the middle. Yeah. Because, when the Shield came out, it was, Rollins was established, Reigns was established, Ambrose. These were all guys that you were familiar with. These guys we were not that familiar with. Retribution, we knew who they were. Even though they gave them these fakakta names, they had these masks on and all that. We knew who they were, but it was a tough time because it was the pandemic. It was
nothing to play off with the
Thunderdome era. So I think these guys are growing every week with their attacks, with everything. Now, who's behind Dark State? I have a couple of thoughts on this.
Do you think it's anyone in this match?
I think it could be. I think the other person that's not involved in this match, I thought I outside shot Stacks. I think maybe he's tired of being the underboss, gets his own crew. Outside of this match, they've only really attacked Tony D.
So that would dissolve the family.
That would kind of dissolve the family, or would split it off. That's like a thought just came in my head because of stuff. Not a bad theory whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's that's going to be my thought. It's Javon.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So Javon's took the biggest beating out of all these guys.
Well, I remember, the NWO powerbomb Eric Bischoff through a table when Kevin Nash did that. That's things that have happened in wrestling before, red herring type deals, and it was faked or whatever they say. We made it so I look like I wasn't involved, and then I pull the trigger, do the reveal when the time is right, kind of deal.
No doubt. So I would be, I don't want to say shocked but I think a lot of it's red herrings. I think they're just kind of working from themselves. And there's these guys right here, Trick, Javon, and Obafemi, are kind of shades of gray characters where Javon is a straight up babyface, right? Oba has heelish mannerisms, but gets cheered, and Trick is over as hell. I want to talk about Trick in the end, but these guys, there's no distinct heel in this match. So I think that perhaps Dark State is that vehicle to be the heel to kind of give this feud some juice.
Yeah. The thing is, they've all shown darker sides. Like Oba, on paper, if you looked at their sheets, Oba's probably on the heel side, Trick and Javon are on the babyface side. So Oba, very over, the who, That
He's awesome.
everybody was chanting it. The guy, you know, he was only a baby face for like a hot second when he first, you know, after he won the breakout tournament, he cashes in, basically has the heel turn right there. Trick, you know, was a heel and a baby face. Now he's shown some heel-ish tendencies. And Javon, plucky baby face, who makes me nervous every time I watch him. I'm like a worried dad when he's gonna, you know, break his head open on like the announce table or something.
Yeah.
But he's showing some heelish tendencies.
I think it's just some edge. That's some teenage edge, right? He's that big, younger, up and growing kid, right? It's some teenage angst. I don't think he's even close. I would be surprised. You think it's really Javon? I would be surprised if it was Javon.
Well, let's see. Oba makes no sense at all to be Oba. He doesn't need a group.
He's the ruler.
He's the ruler. You know, he needs subjects. These guys are not acting like subjects. Trick, what does it do for Trick? Trick, for me, I thought Trick was going to be on the main roster by now.
I should be, yeah.
I was surprised Trick and Oba either of them weren't in the Rumble. Usually the NXT champion has been in there many years. Trick is so over. But what does that do for Trick? Is he going to be in NXT long term? Because if it turns out he's involved with Dark State, that means he's there for a good 4 to 6 months, at least. So I don't think it does anything for Trick. That's why it's kind of like if it's somebody in this match, it's Javon. Maybe it comes out that maybe he wasn't in the beginning involved with them, but then he's tired of getting his ass kicked. He's tired of being beat down. He's kind of has agrees with these guys a little bit, and then he decides, you know, I'm going to be these are my guys. I'm going to be the thing, and he wins the belt. I think they're definitely going to have a heavy presence in this. I think announce tables. I think it's gonna be a mess. Action's going to get taken away from the ring. You know, for me, I if it wasn't Stand and Deliver, if it was a regular NXT PLE, I would love to see something like, you know, some other members of the roster coming out to attack, to, you know, cut off Dark State. You know, kind of something that AEW has not done with the Death Riders, which I'm surprised they haven't by now. But I think NXT is a little smarter than that. But I think it's going to be a solid match. These are 3 distinct styles. You got Oba, the big powerhouse. You got Trick, kind of the guy in the middle style right there. He's a brawler. And then you got Javon, who just flips everywhere, hits these high spots, and is tremendous. I think these guys will complement each other quite well. Also, on Tuesday, another thing that could lead Javon to, like, kind of, y'all left me alone. You know, Trick and Oba, they were in a 6-man tag against Dark State, who looked fairly impressive in their in-ring debut as a group, because I hadn't seen most of these guys wrestle yet. And they, you know, are taken away, leaving Javon to fend for himself. And maybe Javon, you know, has a come to Jesus type moment. Is like, hey, you know what? You know, I'm better with these guys than I am against these guys, kind of thing.
Perhaps. All right. I'm excited for this one as well. I think your portion of this preview got the 2 sexier matches. Do you think that either one of these matches would be sexier if they were in one-on-one environments instead of the triple threat and fatal 4-way?
I think the women's match would be sexier if we got that Julia Stephanie rematch, but now instead of, oh, we're friends, we both came in together, we're both high prospects, whatever. Now it's like, no, we have a clear-cut babyface and a heel, different dynamic than we've seen between the two of them. I think that's hotter. This one, I don't know. We've kind of seen these. I don't know. I think the triple threat really adds to this match. I think all 3 guys have earned the spot, and I'm looking forward to this. So, and I think it's going to be an absolute, you know, it's going to be a mess, but it's in the best way possible.
Yeah, you set the table pretty strong for chaotic wildness. So I'm looking forward to it as well. Andy, breaking news: Logan Crossland and I will be doing a post show for this on YouTube. So
that's awesome.
Have to check that one out.
My Who's Next co-host. I look forward to it. I'll be tuning in. I can tell you.
I know who to call for. I know you got to call in the mud pie, man. When you need something, call down to Mississippi. So you got us ready for us, and Logan's going to take us home. All right. And I think Eller is going to do part 2, but that's to be determined. So
should be fun. I'm looking forward to hearing Mike's thoughts on the other matches.
Yep. So Andy, it was great to have you on, and you crushed the preview, buddy. You brought the main event to light, and I think the people are excited for it now.
All right, cool. Thank you, Ryan.